Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Liban Mohammed, and I'm the founder of LM Capital, where we connect innovative hedge funds, private equity firms, venture capital funds, high growth startups, and other alternate investments with the capital they need to hit their goals in a much faster time frame than average. And so today I actually want to tackle a topic that's been coming up quite a bit, which is why are so many founders struggling to raise money right now? Now, here's the thing, right? I think we are obviously in a very tight funding environment, but I actually don't think that's the main reason why most founders are failing to secure capital. So I'm actually here to debunk the notion that market downturns are actually the primary reason for the lack of access to capital. If you actually look at it and you think about the global financial crisis, for example, right? Some of the best companies in the world have emerged from the global financial crisis, right? They've emerged from a downturn. These are products that we use every single day, such as Uber, Airbnb, Slack, and so on and so forth. They've raised during the worst crises in financial history. Now, if they could do it, right, why are so many founders struggling to raise today? And I think it's a number of things, right? I think one, you kind of have to stop playing the blame game, right? So you have to shift the focus from market conditions and the general macroeconomic climate to founder execution, right? I think one of the biggest traps that founders generally fall into is blaming everything on the market, right? Oh, we're in a bear market, this, that, third, investors are not, deploying capital, so on and so forth. And I think that while the market conditions and the just general macroeconomic climate does play a role, it's rarely the primary reason that you're actually not getting meetings with VCs or term sheets. I think blaming the market avoids tougher questions like, is your value proposition truly differentiated? Are you reaching out to the right investors who align with your thesis? Are you actually exhausting all of the channels that you have at your disposal when it comes to reaching out to investors, i.e., through outbound, or are you leveraging your network to its fullest extent? And then three, is your pitch concise and compelling enough? And then four, does your narrative actually stand out? Are you able to answer two questions effectively? One, which is the why now? Why is the right time to be building your business? What are some of the industry trends or challenges that are driving the need for what you're building? And most importantly, because obviously investors are placing a bet on founders, why are you the right person to be placing a bet on? Why are you the right founder to bring this vision to life? So instead of saying, the market is bad and using that as a coping mechanism, actually focus on what you can control and strengthen the story and the narrative that you're telling about your business and its timing. Now, if we go back to what I had mentioned earlier about market downturns and some of the best companies that have been built during a market downturn, right? A lot of times these companies have succeeded because they offered something that was needed in that specific market climate. So if we look at Airbnb, for example, right? They raised capital by positioning themselves as a way for people to earn extra income when they needed it the most, right? Obviously, we were in a recession in 2008. People lost their jobs. And so Airbnb came in to step in and say, hey, we're offering you a solution to be able to rent your house or apartment or whatever the case may be to potential travelers, right, to earn extra income. And same with Uber, right? Effectively, these two companies started what's called the gig economy, right? And that was a response to the recession and the current and the market climate that they were in at that time, right? So they actually leveraged the downturn as an opportunity to provide value. So, things at the end of the day, market downturns are always not bad for fundraising. It's actually more or less just adapting to it. I like to actually think about this in a similar fashion to just natural selection, right? I think all of the, kind of weaker animals will die out and only the strong will survive, right? If you're able to adapt yourself to a certain condition, you will obviously survive. And then the third thing to look at is if you're struggling to raise capital, ask yourself, what am I actually selling here? And we don't want to think about this in the most literal sense, right? The product or service. It's more or less, what are you selling in terms of a vision, right? Investors need to believe that your solution is going to be essential in the new economic landscape that's unfolding, right? So they want to know why you're the right person to make this vision a reality and why is now the perfect time to invest into this company, right? So are you just selling a product or are you actually selling a solution that aligns with current marketing needs? And then another reason why founders just struggle to raise is because they're unable to demonstrate traction in a meaningful way. I think in a time when markets are a little cooler and money is flowing around a bit more abundantly, investors can take a little bit more risk, right? Because the cost of capital is much cheaper in, call it 2018, 2019, 2020, investors are able to take more risks that are a little bit more irrational as it pertains to cutting checks to, companies that maybe have, promising future growth, things like this. But when things slow down, such as the current market climate that we're in, investors actually want to see tangible proof that customers are willing to pay for your solution today, not tomorrow, not 5-year projected plan today. In fact, not even today, yesterday, right? They want to actually see traction yesterday. They want to see what have you built to date, right? So if your sales are slowing down or your pipeline is drying up, or even worse, you don't have a pipeline at all, right? That's actually a red flag to investors. So show them that you can not only survive, but you can actually thrive in a down market and you'll stand out. Now, the next piece that I'm going to talk about is not necessarily something about your business or the model that you're in, but it's more or less a soft skill, right? It's actually a trait that has more to do with the founder. And this, I think, is one of the most important things, because at the end of the day, investors are not placing a bet on the right business model. I think if you look at it from that angle, that's fairly commoditized, right? There's thousands of the same business models, but the key here is who is the founder to actually execute on that business model, right? They're looking for the right founders, and the right founders come with a certain set of traits that distinguish them from the average founder, right? I believe that some of the best founders in the world typically have very high resilience, they have very high stress tolerance, they have grit, the adaptability, and so on and so forth. And if you're not securing funding at this stage, it actually might be because you're not showing these qualities, right? Talk about ways that you've adapted your strategy, pivoted, or found new revenue streams in response to market trends. Be very honest about your struggles. I think at the end of the day, if you're able to talk up stories about previous companies that you've built or previous struggles that you've had personally, this is only a plus for you. And I think if you're able to showcase how you overcame these problems, right, it actually just shows a more innate way for you to overcome problems. And then the biggest excuse, in my opinion, right? I think we hear this one all the time. There's no money out there, and it's just simply not true, right? If you go on PitchBook today, you'll see deals being funded all the time across all asset classes, from the earliest stage of private equity, which is essentially just venture capital, right? If you look at seed stage companies that are being funded, all the way up to the latter part of the segment, right, or the upper part of the segment, i.e., private equity, right? These are all being funded in the private markets. Public markets are also being funded, right? At the end of the day, even in the tightest markets, billions of dollars are being deployed, but the only difference is the bar becomes higher. So what does that mean for a founder like you? So that means that you just have to raise your standards in terms of what you're building, as well as your standards as a founder, right? So are you meeting that higher bar that these investors have, right? Because the thing is, the reality is, at the end of the day, the amount of money that's in a market may fluctuate, but quality deals are always being funded, right? Is your deal structured in a way that actually makes it attractive in this climate? And so, just to conclude, if we look at a few success stories in terms of companies that have been able to successfully raise in a downturn to prove that it's possible, there are countless examples, but I'll just talk about 3 today. 2 I've already mentioned, Uber and Slack, right? Uber raised in 2010 during a still recovering economy, and they were able to scale quickly because they presented a solution that was economically viable. Slack was actually able to raise impressively despite a pivot. They actually pivoted from a gaming company to a online business collaboration tool, and they provided something that every single business needed, right? A more efficient way to collaborate. And then Square got funded because it solved a real pain point for small businesses who could not get approved for loans or traditional payment solutions during a crisis. And so what you can do differently to put yourself in a position to raise effectively: 1, refine your pitch to highlight resiliency and adaptability. Focus on tangible traction and how you're serving current problems. Don't blame the market. Focus on what's within your control today and adapt your strategy. And while it's not easy to obviously raise capital in a downturn, it's actually far from impossible. There's lots of founders who succeed during a downturn. Our clients have been able to do it. There are other folks that are out there that have been able to do it. So it's very much possible. Don't let the market be an excuse. Look at some of these previous examples that I've mentioned as well. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with any questions or topics that you'd like for me to cover next time. And if you need any help with your fundraising strategy, or you'd like to get in front of more investors on a shorter time frame, please do not hesitate to schedule some time with me. My calendar is below in the description, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.